The system explained so enthusiastically that saliva flew everywhere. When a man achieves success, he will hate me, the person who took advantage of him when he was poor and took his humiliating money and dignity, and will use every means to take revenge on me. It wasn't until after I died that he fully woke up and admitted that he had loved me ever since. Every day, he drank until he was drunk, and every night he knelt down and cried bitterly in front of my grave, expressing his deep regret. After hearing this tragedy, I was so excited that tears welled up in my eyes. Quickly grabbing the black card, stepping on the accelerator, I rushed past the bored male woman standing on the side of the road, causing water to splash on his body. After that, I went straight to the nearest shopping center, swiped my card, and bought several luxury handbags and 8 large gold bracelets, stuffing them all into the trunk of the car. I have been poor for 24 years, waiting for the book to change my life. Compared to the male wife, I am the one who needs this black card to save my life. The trunk was fully loaded. I wiped the sweat from my forehead after stuffing all the loot into the trunk. The system hurriedly and panicked. Host, you came to this world to save the male wife. If you do not complete the task, you will be punished. I quickly lay down under the wheel. Don't you want to erase me? Don't hesitate anymore. Now you drive the car and get on top of me. The system roared with terrifying momentum. The punishment is more terrifying than death. If you don't complete the mission, you will have to stay in this world forever. The air instantly seemed to freeze. I propped myself up, lifted myself up, and quickly crawled out from under the wheel. My arm also wore a long chain of gold bracelets, which when they hit each other, they made a clear, elegant jingling sound. My voice trembled with excitement. What do you mean? If I don't do the mission and receive the reward, I can forever stay in this world as the daughter of the richest person? Every day as soon as I open my eyes, I will have money to spend forever? The system was speechless, so it switched to leading step by step. Host, think about your parents. If you don't come back, how will they live? I happily patted my chest. Don't worry about this. I opened the Vanga myself and used a lighter to send them all away. Before transferring books, they first wanted to sell me to a 50-year-old old man in exchange for $380,000 as a gift. I fought with the whole family for a while, and finally turned on the gas stove valve. I'm doomed with them. The system tried to struggle one last time. Before transferring books, what was your name? Huachiuda. The space was immediately silent. I was extremely pleased and dragged my trophy home. On the way home, I again encountered male Father Tam Gadden, who was anxiously pacing back and forth. He stood under the awning, struggling to avoid the rain, holding his cell phone in his hand, stubbornly calling over and over again. I glanced at my cell phone in silent mode in the passenger seat. The screen clearly lit up countless times. The last time, the phone automatically hung up. The screen stopped at the WeChat interface. The conversation displayed a long line of transfer messages and notification of transfer receipt. Below, at the bottom, is the last message for today. Tam Gadden sent me. No need to constantly take money and trample on my dignity. Doing that will only make me feel even more disgusting. I have never felt that having someone slap money in my face was some kind of humiliation. Before I passed the book, I passed the university entrance exam, but my parents were unfair and pointed at me and scolded me. Everyone's daughter is reasonable. After graduating from high school, she goes to work at a factory in town, supports the family, obediently waits until she gets married, and then returns the bride price to her family. Someone like you is something we wasted our effort to raise. I carried my simple luggage, left 2 fierce faces behind, boarded the train to college alone, had to borrow a scholarship to pay tuition, and didn't have a penny left on me. Fortunately, in the dormitory there was a young lady with a hot temper. The diamonds encrusted on her nails were equal to my 1 month's living expenses. I became her servant, every day hastily helping her buy water, rice, even clothes and cosmetics. She didn't need it, so she just threw it to me. I also happily accepted it. Everyone criticized me. I had no backbone, like a dog for money, even throwing away my dignity. But I calculated very clearly. Buying rice at one time can earn 100 yuan, and running errands downstairs to pick up parcels or buy water can also earn at least 50 yuan. The clothes she threw to me were all brand name. Wearing them felt soft and comfortable, unlike the old, tattered clothes in my closet. A person who has nothing to eat, When receiving a bowl of flour porridge brought by someone else, the first reaction is to be grateful and rush to eat as if waiting for hunger, rather than staring at the grains of sand and gravel in the bowl, making a fuss about the porridge being unclean. Thanks to her, I successfully completed 4 years of college and even saved several tens of thousands of yuan. But Tam Gadden is different. Every time he transfers money, he is silent, quickly accepts it, then straightens the spikes on his body, screaming about how wrong he is, trying to protect his self-esteem that is not worth a few coins. He both regrets money and wants others to kneel down and put money in his hands, just like a hypocritical phoenix nom. Heavy rain has been continuously pouring water onto the ground, dispelling the summer heat. I drove back to the villa, trying my best to carry my bags into the house. A pile of high-end boxes lay haphazardly in the middle of the living room, taking up half of the room. Up close, you can still smell the scent of tan na leather emanating from the bag. The smell of money really makes people happy. The system sees that I don't. With a bit of carefree restraint, I immersed myself in a pile of bags. Unable to bear it, I spoke up. "Host, you love Nam Su a little, please save him. He just couldn't get it because of love, so sad that he became depressed." I stood still, saying darkly, "I've been poor for 24 years, my depression is probably worse than his. If you keep talking one more sentence, tonight my depression will immediately turn into bipolar disorder." The system was decisive. "Shut up." Nanny Lu came out from behind the kitchen, looked behind me, and saw no sign of Tam Gadden. Her expression was a bit unhappy, her tone carrying a bit of resentment. She said, "Miss Hua, didn't you drive to pick up Master Tam? With such heavy rain, you came back alone. What happened to Master Tam?" Now I raised my head, cold as ice, looking towards her, a reproachful look on her face. I couldn't see a single thing missing. It seemed like Master Tam was the owner of this villa, and I was just a temporary resident. Tam Gadden is famous for being a poor teacher with a sad and handsome face, coupled with a faded checkered shirt. Standing under the shadow of a tree, the sunlight enchanted me, making me go crazy. In school, the difference between people's social status is not so obvious, but after graduating and entering adult society, everyone must return to their own class. Without support, he encountered obstacles everywhere, and his career could not flourish. The female lead, who he secretly loves, becomes very close to the male lead, making him even more discouraged, living every day like a soulless corpse. I took the person back to the villa and arranged the best living room on the second floor for him to live in. Currently, Tam Gadden has been here for more than a year. For the past year, he has always treated each person in the villa with utmost gentleness. Mrs. Lu once broke an expensive set of clothes. Based on the contract, I proposed to deduct the compensation from her salary. Tam Gadden sat on one side and calmly said, "If you can give someone a place, you should give it up. It's just a few porcelain cups. Do you need to be so aggressive and threaten people? When will you be able to stop this bad habit of using money to humiliate others?" These words were like nailing me to a stake and humiliating me, as if I were truly an evil lady. He devoted all his tenderness to others. For me, there is only cold distance. The system is funny. It keeps wanting me to save a man who only knows how to stumble on the path of love. Compared to him, I should save myself even more, shouldn't I? I laughed coldly. "Since when has there been another young master in the family? Nanny Lu, who pays your salary now? Don't you know?" Her expression stiffened, and just as she was about to open her mouth to say something, the villa door opened. Edition Tam Gadden was soaked all over as he scanned his fingerprint and walked in. Behind him, there was also a weak girl with pale face following. It's the female lead. Yet he dared to bring the heroine back to my villa? The system enthusiastically explained to me. The male and female protagonists quarreled. The lovesick male and female protagonists thought that their opportunity had come and immediately sent them home. When they were at school, the love between the male and female protagonists was so fierce that they were teased by outsiders. They were the most romantic, tyrannical CEO and the white flower of the slums. When she became an adult, the script turned into the female lead being a gold digger, wanting to fly to high branches, and the talented and tyrannical CEO who had inherited his career and was currently working. Need a good wife. Their love cannot endure any storm. The person above does not want to bend over and compromise. The person below demands equal status. After a moment of argument, the female lead got angry and turned around to find a backup male assistant. Tam Gadden was so happy and excited. Thinking he had finally seen the sunlight, he rushed into the heavy rain, wanting to take the female lead home. But I, because I was worried about him, humbly drove to pick him and the heroine back. Tam Gadden frowned and looked at me. Hwaham Noyet, why didn't you answer the phone? Do you know that I waited for you for half a day, but I didn't see you driving to pick me up? Ha Tintin almost caught a cold. It turns out my new name is Hwaham Noyet. Bright Moon was promoted to Lu and is 100 times easier to listen to than Truda. I like this name over and over again in my mouth countless times. Nanny Lu's face showed concern. She quickly brought 2 dry towels. Then she turned around and scolded. Miss Hua, why did you come back alone and buy so many miscellaneous things? Tam Gadden saw the bags spread on the ground. His face was so gloomy that it was unsightly. Hwaham Noyet, do you have to always bring out your big lady's personality? If you have money, you can do whatever you want. Are you wasting money like that for anyone to see? You always refuse to change your bad habits. Every time I spent money, Tam Gadden would coldly shout a few words, as if I was spending money in his account. To build a closer relationship with him, it's even more to protect his weak and fragile self-esteem. It's been a long time since I bought new clothes, and I haven't gone to a high-class restaurant to eat in a long time. Even so, Tam Gadden still often black-faced and blamed him. I spend money like water. I frowned and looked at him. What does it have to do with me spending my own money? Or should I say, you've been here for so long that you're planning on taking over the guest's nest? Do you really think that my property is yours? Tam Gadden suddenly turned pale. These words were extremely cruel, like ripping out his heart of cheap self-esteem, throwing it to the ground, and trampling on it. The me of the past would always care about his dignity. Every word that came out of my mouth would be pondered in my heart for a long time before I dared to say it, for fear of making him unhappy. His self-esteem is both sensitive and weak, needs careful protection, and also needs to be nurtured by a pile of money. Nanny Lu wanted to open her mouth to say a few words for Tam Gadden, but I waved my hand to interrupt. Nanny Lu, you're fired. Now immediately pack up your things and get out. On the other hand, the money you broke will be deducted from your salary this month. She screamed in surprise. Miss Hua, based on what did you fire me? Obviously, I didn't make any mistakes. Tam Gadden rubbed her eyebrows, expressing her dissatisfaction with me. Hwaham Noyet, you have never been poor, so you don't know that this look of yours using money to oppress others is really very ugly. What he said was wrong. I was once very poor, really very poor. So poor that I couldn't buy a pen, couldn't eat a meal, so poor that I had to rummage for food in the trash, picking up dried dumplings that others had thrown away and happily stuffing them into my mouth, awkward. After finishing high school, I was so poor that when I went to college, the first time the eldest lady threw me 100 dong for running fees. I held the red bill of money and rolled it back and forth so excitedly that I stayed up all night. Knowing that poor people are not like him, they accept money from others, repay gratitude with resentment, and humiliate the other person. Very good. I looked straight into his eyes. You can stay. In the future, your salary will be paid by Tam Tien Sin. Tam Gadden's remaining words were choked. He pursed his lips without moaning. He couldn't bear to pay, even though I had transferred him so much money. He used that money not to buy things for himself, but to buy gifts for the female lead. Even I didn't receive a single gift to show my gratitude from him. When Nanny Lu Bei came out and dragged her away, she was still crying, saying she was wrong, begging me to give her another chance. Called Tin to stand behind, biting his lip. First, she looked admiringly at the pile of luxury handbags falling all over the ground, then reached out to pull on Tam Gadden's sleeve. Worried, uneasy, innocent, he said. Not in. Ham Noyet is probably jealous because I brought you home like that. You should probably leave. She retracted her shoulders, pretended to be lost, and turned to leave, but Tam Gadden grabbed her wrist tightly. It's so late. It's still raining heavily outside. You're running everywhere. What if you have a high fever? Stay here tonight. I'll take you to the room to shower first. Having finished speaking, he passed me, wanting to lead Kyo Tin to the second floor. Tam Gadden is in the largest guest room on the second floor. Toilets and changing rooms are fully equipped. Furthermore, Every day there is a maid who comes to clean. I quickly said, wait a minute. Tam Gadden impatiently turned back. Hwaham Noyet, I advise you to be moderate. I don't have time to argue with you. The person I like is always Kyo Tin. I only consider you my sister. I'm a month older than him. It's true that the system's sister interjected at the right time. Host, if you don't think of him as your younger brother, if you save him a little, I can complete the mission. That's right. What does your younger brother usually talk to you about the most? What is this? I seemed to see Hua Tian too fiercely grabbing my hair, his fat face magnified infinitely before my eyes. I imitated its tone and said, other people's sisters have to marry out, in exchange for the bride price to spend on their younger brother. Why don't you agree to get married? If you don't get married, where will I get the money to buy a house or a car in the future? Today I have to beat you to death. The system was silent again. My eyes turned red. The faces of Tam Gadden and Hua Tin too gradually overlapped, hatred covering my whole body. I took the vase of flowers in my hand and threw it aggressively at him. Bin Luan was not very precise, following Kyo Tin's shrill scream. The flower vase shattered at Tam Gadden's feet, shattering into small pieces all over the ground. He was so scared that he took a step back. When he could react, he immediately covered Kyo Tin behind him, with a fierce expression, and said, you're crazy. What? Immediately apologized to Kyo Tin, otherwise I will move out of your villa tonight. I smiled with immense joy, pointed at the open villa door, and said, okay, then go away. Then remember to pay the rent for this year, including the money I transferred to you. It was pouring rain outside, and Tam Gadden was as shocked as if struck by lightning. His hands were clenched into fists, his face showing no signs of hatred towards me. Why does he hate me? Hate that I gave him money. Hate that I helped him build his career. Hate that I used my connections to pave the way for him. A long while later, I heard Tam Gadden gritting his teeth. Hwaham Noyet, you must remember clearly that if I leave this door today, I will absolutely not return. This soft tie trick has never been effective for me. I said slowly. Like what? Do I still hope that a parasite like you will come back? The blood on his face seemed to be drained away. Before that, I had never said such a harsh word to him. Kyo Tin couldn't help but defend the weak. Hwaham Noyet, how can you rely on money and insult others like that? Nadan will definitely succeed. He will definitely not be inferior to anyone. Of course Tam Gadden will succeed in the book. I devoted all my strength to helping him open a company, build a career, and used all my lifelong relationships to pave the way for him. With such an open path, he can of course advance smoothly, without obstacles, and comfortably own hundreds of billions of assets. But now, without my help, Tam Gadden is poor and white, but has only one arrogant bone, creaking with Kyo Tin. Suspecting that she wants to marry into Haomon, how can she willingly continue to stay with this useless spare tire? Tam Gadden held Kyo Tin's hand and left the villa. The two of them walked slowly, as if waiting for me to enter the water and open my mouth to stop them. Until the two of them left the villa, the iron door behind them clanged shut. Tam Gadden was still immersed in the thought that I would regret it, when suddenly he was hit by a cruel reality. Bin Luan blocked his face, looking surprised, standing outside the door not knowing what to do. In the villa, the system carefully looked at my blood-red pupils, trying to negotiate with me. If not, go see a psychologist. The current you are more like a crazy person than a lovesick male woman. The psychiatrist sat in front of me, holding a stack of medical examination papers in his hand. I finished filling it out, then based on the process asked me, Miss Hua, what do you think is the biggest reason why you can't control your emotions? I leaned back in my chair, expressionless, spitting out one word. Poor. After this word escaped, I brandished 8 large gold bracelets on my wrist, making him dizzy. The psychiatrist opened his mouth wide, hesitated for a long time, then persistently asked, in your daily life, do you see any signs of obsessive-compulsive disorder? Bin Luan, I have thought very carefully. I just bought a lot of things and filled my room so I could feel safe and not afraid that I would be like before, whether I could eat or not. Sometimes, I feel very much like a hamster, desperately hoarding food, desperately stuffing food into my stomach. The psychiatrist took off his glasses, rubbed his eyes, trying to avoid looking. I put on 8 gold bracelets, then scratched the top of my nearly bald head, coming to a conclusion that I couldn't believe. Based on the test results, she had to live for a long time in a situation of oppression and deprivation, leading to great psychological pressure. I recommend that she listen to herself and buy a few quality items for the house. This can help reduce feelings of anxiety. The cell phone makes a ting-ting sound. I opened it, and it was a text message my best friend sent me. Ham Noyet, the land that Hakbatam look at will be auctioned tomorrow. We'll meet at the auction. In the future, this land will increase in price a lot. I'm thinking, if I could buy it, after I earn the money, wouldn't I be able to donate to a few more elementary schools, helping more children who don't have the conditions to read books and go back to school? Immersing myself in the imagination of a warm future, I felt like I had returned to the years before when I had not yet become a woman. I also longed for the warmth of my family, and I also fantasized about a self that did not need to worry about clothes. Bin Luan absolutely did not suffer the fate of becoming hysterical and committing suicide by opening Vanna. I immediately answered, "Let's go. I will definitely go to the auction tomorrow." People came, people went. I pulled Lai Vai's hand and ate 4 small pieces of cake in a row. Her expression was a bit hateful. "Aren't you usually screaming to lose weight? Why is your taste so good today?" Very quickly, he pulled my hand again and shook it. "But I like you to be a little fatter. If you're so thin, the wind blows and you fall." I forced a smile. "I don't have a good taste. I'm just very afraid of poverty, afraid that after eating this meal, I won't have the next meal. So I've developed a habit of having to risk my life to put it in my mouth when I get to eat." Lai Vai absent-mindedly turned her head, as if seeing the new Luke dying. She pointed behind me, horrified. "Isn't this the Hakbatam you like? Why did you bring another woman here?" I turned my head and looked back, only to see Tam Gadden appearing at the auction with Kyo Tin. I asked the system, "Doesn't this place require an invitation to enter? How did he get in?" "Got rich overnight by robbing a bank." The system replied, "Host, you gave him an invitation. He entered in the name of your boyfriend." Tam Gadden was still wearing the clothes he was wearing yesterday when he was kicked out. He had washed it briefly but had not ironed it properly. There were still a few wrinkles, clearly revealing his modesty. In the middle of the luxurious crowd, he calmly looked at me for a long time. The resentment and impatience on his face seemed to slowly condense at the corner of his mouth, and finally revealed a deep, meaningful smile, as if everything was in the palm of his hand. Maybe he thought it was because of him that I appeared here. Anyway, I told him about this land in private many times, and promised many times that I would give it to him on his 24th birthday, helping his career advance. By the time Bin Luan auctioned the land, the look on Tam Gadden's face became even more complaining and confident, as if he had planned in advance, so he leisurely and calmly went through a round of price increases. I used 300 million to get this undeveloped land. The host enthusiastically presented the auction contract. "Miss Hua, congratulations on winning the right to explore. After signing the contract, this land will be your private property." Just as I was about to move forward, Tam Gadden calmly stood up, attracting the attention of thousands of people. All of his lost self-respect yesterday seemed to be restored. With a bit of arrogance on his face, he said to me, "Ham Noyet, considering that you bought this land for me, I forgive you for your random chaos last night. As long as you apologize to Tintin, I can move back to the villa tonight." 300 million. He accepted it as if it were a matter of course. There was not even a trace of gratitude on his face, only excitement and arrogance. Tam Gadden may not know that inside this body that he thought was familiar had long changed into another soul. He will soon realize that getting money out of my mouth is more difficult than pulling out my teeth. I sat in the same place, observing Tam Gadden from top to bottom, smiling on the outside but not smiling on the inside. "Who said I bought this land for you?" Tam Gadden was instantly startled. I said contemptuously, "Just as much as you. The land is worth 300 million? Is your body made of gold?" There was laughter in the auction room. Vinji grabbed my sleeve, so excited that tears welled in his eyes. "Noyet, your bad eyes for the past few years are finally cured today? Won't it happen again in the future?" Tam Gadden stood under the light, like a clown being observed and embarrassed. His self-esteem was crushed. He stared at me as if he had just met me for the first day. Coincidentally, I actually knew him for less than a day. The system that came to help me was really looking for the wrong person. A gloomy, crazy person like me can't even save himself, So he doesn't have the energy to save a lovelorn man or woman. His eyes were higher than the top of his head, and the whispers in the auction room reached his ears. Tam Gadden simply said that he is a person who eats food and blankets. So how can he be cared for? Hyo-tin couldn't help but stand up and ask, Hwaham Noyet, why don't you give the land to Gadden? I narrowed my eyes slightly. Then take the 300 million to help him. Hyo-tin was speechless. In this world, as long as a man is a little gloomy and stubborn, everyone has to escort him regardless. I am also a crazy person, bitter and sinister. Why doesn't everyone support me? Tam Gadden's face became cruel and sinister. He pulled Hyo-tin's hand before leaving the auction, fiercely throwing me a sentence. Hwaham Noyet. In this life, even if you kneel down and beg me, I will not return to your villa. The love-stricken male lead took his female lead with him, completely disappearing from my world. Without me standing between them, I think Tam Gadden must have achieved his goal now. It should be smooth sailing. The third day after buying that piece of land, I pretended to walk into the high-end clothing store of the shopping center, gently caressing the latest model. That soft fabric could really soothe my anxiety. Suddenly, the system inside my head sighed deeply. I immediately asked a question. How come? I haven't been crazy in these past few days, making your heart so calm that you start to complain. The lovesick man and woman are a bit pitiful right now. It's selfish. Let me see Tam Gadden's recent situation. After leaving the villa, Tam Gadden calculated the remaining money on him, went to Tantrung village, and rented an apartment. In the hot summer, the inside is as hot as a steamer. But he was like a general who won a battle, hugging the female lead with hidden love, saying deeply and sincerely, Tin, give me a little time. I can definitely let you live good days. Right now I still lack some startup money. As long as I can collect the money, I can definitely build a successful career. In a place he couldn't see, Hyo-tin showed her hatred for this superior situation. Even though she came from an ordinary background, she once loved the male lead fiercely, lived in luxury villas, ate at the most expensive restaurants, and slept in hotels worth more than 10,000 yuan a night. How do you want to return to Tantrung village? A person who has been loved by a lion will of course only see a hyena as a blade of grass on the roadside. The system tried to open its mouth. If not, let's save him a little. Anyway, I need KPI. Host, not completing the mission will lower the individual's mission completion rate. Delete my contact method. His avatar is still in the contact list. My personal page has new posts 3 times a day. Each post seems to brag about the love I have. WeChat's last message stopped at his eloquent words. I sent a sentence, Tam Gadden. The opposite side almost immediately displays an icon composing a message. He composed for a long time, then after a while sent me a sentence. Hwaham Noyet. You only contacted me now. Don't you think it's too late? Why is it too late? It's never too late to collect a debt. I frowned and replied. I transferred money to you last year, including rent. I told the lawyer to arrange it and send it to your mailbox. Remember to pay on time. The opposite person suddenly became silent. Even the text editor icon disappeared. I waited for a long time, but didn't see him answer. Tam Gadden once felt that when I gave him money, I was insulting him. Now, I want to reclaim this humiliation. He hugged it tightly again, not giving it back a penny. Seeing that he was slow to respond, I intentionally sent Bao Mao Lu's regulations to him. She really likes you, treats you like her own child. With her current comments, I have fired her. If you want to hire a nanny, contact her. Monthly salary is 8,000 yuan. Food and accommodation are included, and days off are also paid. Don't forget. Still no response. I held up my cell phone to show the system. You see, it's not that I don't want to save him. It's that he doesn't pay attention to me. At this point, the system is completely silent. The auction land was quickly approved, and the new project began preparing to start construction. In order to attract more investment, I intentionally went to find the biggest villain of this book. The original system even prevented the host from being able to access it. He is that villain, the one who stomps his feet and makes the whole port city tremble. I argued with reason. I'm not looking for someone like him to invest. Should I go find the guy in Tantrung village, step on his foot, and the ceiling below will shake to throw money at him? The meeting went very smoothly. The soul under this body used to have to carry its younger brother around like a weight, without any knowledge about investing and trading. I know clearly that my only strength is that before the book transfer, the eldest lady once unintentionally grumbled in my ear. In business, you have to know when to give up small profits. People can only agree to continue to cooperate with you when they get benefits. She not only helped me finish my formal studies, but also taught me a lot of practical things. Even the driver's license came from the eldest lady, because she was afraid of suffering and tiredness and had to learn how to drive during the summer. She took me along to be her friend, so she also paid my tuition. I thought about this painfully and decided to change the 4 or 6 profit parts in the contract to 37. The contract was signed. I suddenly got excited and ordered a few bottles of expensive red wine. I just didn't expect that when the dining room door was pushed open, the person carrying the wine in would be Tam Gadden. It's been over a month since I last saw him. He was much thinner than before and also became much more emaciated. If before, when he was still in school, he carried a bit of sadness, poverty, and intense sadness, but now his body is covered with a tired and dusty look. The bottom of his eyes are no longer as clean, gentle, and refreshing as before. This is the largest bar in the city. Handsome-looking, drunk men are everywhere. Tam Gadden mixed in there is not as eye-catching at all. He was carrying a bottle of wine, and when he looked up, he discovered that in the luxurious room, there were only me and another strange man. At first I couldn't believe it. I was shocked for a moment. Then when I reacted, I quickly stepped forward and grabbed my wrist. With a gloomy face, he said, "Hua Ham Noyet, who is he? Why did you appear here with him?" I raised my foot and kicked him in the groin, successfully escaping his restraint. "Do I still need to report to you when I discuss business matters with others? Do you think you are my father?" Tam Gadden's face turned pale. He stared at me for a long time, then slowly sighed, as if he had been disarmed and forced to surrender again. It was like the tension that had been there for so long had finally let go. He slowly opened his mouth. "Ham Noyet, you win. You know that I work as an employee here and intentionally brought others to stimulate you, right? For more than a month, you intentionally did not contact me. Wasn't it because I let you see clearly who the person you love is? As you wish, in the end I had to admit it. Right now, I love you more than Tintin." He closed his eyes as if trying to let go of the past, but as if unwilling to enter a new life. "Ham Noyet, I will return to your side and will never contact Tintin privately again. But there must be a condition. You must give me that land first. Then we will make a 3-way agreement." I quickly realized that the key point was that I was about to lose money, so I interrupted in a panic. "If you want the land, then that's fine. But you still want my money? If you want the money, then I can accept it for now. But do you still want me to pamper you and repay favors with resentment? You're a scoundrel." In this book, I spent more than half of my life's enthusiasm to elevate Tam Gak into Hong Kong's Tin Kui. The first thing he did after he stood firm was to buy Hua Jia's company. After that, he kicked my entire family off the board of directors and joined forces with several other companies to jointly stifle my parents' budding career from the bud. From then on, Hua Jia no longer had a chance to turn around. My parents also quickly became depressed and passed away. Men and women think differently. A man who loves a woman will spend some money to feed her, just like raising birds or cats. Basically, there will be no capacity training for that person to be able to stand on their own. One way they can only get a little money. The only option is to put on beautiful makeup for the men to enjoy. Every penny was spent on that woman. After all, it's still about serving men. But women are different. When they love someone, they will lead him into their circle, little by little teaching the other person to stand on their feet. After that, he watched as he became bigger and bigger, even surpassing himself, then revealing his true nature and turning around to look for younger, more beautiful women. Vin Lan by herself became a discarded chrysanthemum. Yesterday, I was poor, very, very poor. So I value money more than my life. Don't even think about paying attention to my money. Tam Gadden, are you sure you want me to say it clearly? I no longer love you. You can get out of my sight, then disappear from my life forever. Don't look closely. I could clearly see Tam Gadden's lips trembling slightly. To this day, he still can't believe that I suddenly didn't love him anymore. The love in the past was so strong, so heavy that he was tightly surrounded by that love, believing that it would never disappear, impossible. He stared into my unwavering eyes. Why can't I love again? Ham Noyet, you're just angry at me, right? It's just because I'm too poor and don't believe that I'll be liked by a rich lady like you. So I want to challenge your limits over and over again to prove that your love for me will never disappear. Now I'm sure that you really love me. So let's stop arguing and go back to life as before. He was begging, tears streaming down his eyes. Love is a luxury that only the rich and noble can give. I just traveled for a month and suddenly became rich. I couldn't give him such a precious thing. Asking for my love was a waste of effort. You can give him the love that has long disappeared. He stared into my eyes, wanting to find the full love of the past. But after searching for half a day, those eyes were only cold, strange, and wary. If he hadn't proactively appeared in front of me, I would have forgotten what the lovesick male protagonist of this book actually looks like. You're right. How could a lady like me like someone with empty hands like you? You've proven this now. So can you get out of here? Tamgaddon, I'm afraid this is the first time I've seen fear on his face. His life in Tantrung village for the past month must not have been good. In order to earn a living, he even had to come to this mixed-race place of fish and dragons to work as a wine marketer. Tamgaddon tried to smile, as if convincing himself he wouldn't. I love you so much. How can I suddenly stop loving you? He grabbed my wrist, wanting to pull me out. No yet. Let's talk privately for a moment. I'll follow you out here. At this moment, the force he used was too great, extremely similar to the hands of my father who worked in the fields all year round. The day I was tricked into going home because of getting married, my family also argued loudly with him for a long time, until finally he pulled my hand. So, drag me into the room. Huachiuda, you have to listen to me. Do you think you can do whatever you want if you get into college? I tell you, if you don't want to get married, you have to get married. The two scenes seemed to merge into one. In front of me, no one could see my bloodshot eyes. Bin Luan, as if something had entered my head, screamed, took the beer bottle in his hand, and violently smashed it on Tamgaddon's head. He held his head, fresh blood flowing from between his fingers. Fear and pain were clearly visible on his face. He couldn't believe that I loved him so much and would cruelly attack him. Shards of glass shattered, splashing all over the ground. The villain suddenly snuggled into the lounge chair, held his head, revealed scared eyes, and shouted loudly. Let's change the profit comment to be 6. No, it's not 5 years. That's right. 5 years is enough to fight him. Don't hit me. I'll immediately tell the secretary to redraft the contract. Hello. Chudong, quickly print out the new contract. The profit changes to 5 years. Fuck you. If you don't hurry, next week will be my 7th week. Witnessing all the chaos in the room, the system cried and hugged me. Host, I was wrong. You should quickly call a psychiatrist to examine you. I will never let you save this damn male lead again. I sat in front of the psychiatrist again, filled out a stack of papers, and then gave it to him. The psychiatrist used force to rub the remaining hair on his head. He stared at the papers as if he wanted to pierce them. Then he tried to probe, asking, Miss Hua, what do you think is the fundamental reason why you lost control of your emotions this time? I crossed my arms and leaned back in my chair. Is it because the same scene repeats itself, making me remember bad memories? The pain and suffering, like cancer clinging to my bones, makes it impossible for me to escape. The psychiatrist seemed to have found a breakthrough. The voice softly said, Can you tell me what you were doing at that time? I signed a contract with my partner for a 300 million piece of land. I said I would split the profit 3 and him 7. But he insisted that in 5 years, based on my calculations, my partner must give me at least 200 million in profit. The remaining hairs on the doctor's head have completely fallen out. He wiped his face forcefully, took a deep breath, and came to a conclusion. This time, based on the feedback from the health report, it's probably due to painful memories resurfacing. If not, try limiting the repetition of these scenes. For example, try to minimize the chance of earning 200 million. He sounded weak and helpless. I didn't want to nod randomly, but I still reluctantly listened to the previous sentence. Try to minimize the possibility of recreating the scene that haunts you. I took back the list of tickets I sent to Tamgaddon, reduced the amount of money for medicine, and the bottle of wine that broke his head, so I needed to compensate. I frowned and asked, System, how much compensation should I pay for a broken head? Depending on the severity of the injury. If it's light, you have to pay 20,000 yuan in compensation. If it's serious, it's normal to pay several 100,000 yuan. The lovesick man and woman are still alive, which proves that their injuries are not serious. I generously wrote off 20,000 yuan, then sent the 10 million debt note back to him. When Tam Gadin called, I quickly hung up and blocked him. Having finished everything, I breathed a sigh of relief. Live I called. Noyet, let's go for a walk together? I have Hakbatam's drama. Live I's voice carries joy when people encounter misfortune. She put on the latest handbag, along with the most expensive clothes, and mocked Tam Gadin for not being able to get the money to pay the debt, then asked Kyo Tin to sell the handbag and jewelry. As a result, Kyo Tin argued with him, then grabbed all her belongings and ran to reconcile with her ex-boyfriend. In this book, the male lead and female lead will once again be together, continuing the show full of twists and turns between the rich president and the little flower in the slums. But I, who should have always helped the love-stricken man, completely drew boundaries with him and continued to be the eldest young lady. That's why everything has returned to the starting point. Only Tam Gadin remains standing still in place. The love he has and the love he gives are like sand flowing through his hands. Neither can be kept. While at school, Tam Gadin was loyal to Kyo Tin for a ridiculously simple reason. The man was so poor that he didn't have a penny left in his pocket, so he became frustrated when buying things at the school canteen. The money on the card is not enough to pay for this simple meal. Then, the female protagonist saw her and generously swiped her card for him. From this moment on, the seeds of love began to sprout. So, even if I spend 10 million on Tam Gadin in the future, it won't be as good as the 20 that the female lead unintentionally gave him before. I went shopping for bags in disgust. The man's wife is not worthy of his 10 million. He is only worthy of serving 20 dong of food. If you like, just slowly enjoy this bowl of his torn rice for the rest of your life. I think Tam Gadin and I will never have the chance to meet again. Bin Luan, when we separated from Live Vi and drove back to the villa, I unexpectedly discovered a person bored with school, squatting outside the villa. It seemed like he had been waiting for me for a long time. I had to think for a long time before I reluctantly realized it. It turns out that he was a deeply affectionate man from the past. His eyes were higher than the top of his head. After seeing my car, a light appeared in the bottom of Tam Gadin's eyes. He carefully called out, Noyet, I blocked all your contact methods. I really have no other choice, so I want to stay here and wait for you to return. He was completely no longer arrogant and cocky like before. There is also a pale scar on his forehead. The torment of life made his face carry some sadness. I remembered the psychiatrist's words and tried to control myself to minimize the recurrence of the scene that made me suffer. Tam Gadin can always make me recall the most painful memories. I instinctively walked around him, wanting to return to the villa. Tam Gadin was impatient, just about to step forward and hold my arm tightly, but remembered that half a month ago when my head was broken by a wine bottle, he suddenly retracted his hand and changed it to block in front of me. Noyet, I know I have done many things in the past that are not worthy of you. I also blame myself for not understanding my heart until now. Your family background is so good, I always feel like I don't deserve you. That's why I want to test your love for me. His words were sincere and earnest, his eyes even showing tears. I frowned and took a step back. He treated this emotional part like glass, constantly increasing the pressure to test its solidity. As he wanted, the glass finally broke. When he realized what he wanted, he was reluctant and had to reassemble the glass into its original form. But he didn't pass my test, so our relationship ended. The system tries its last struggle. If you don't shut up, the main character doesn't need to rely on anything. Stuff me, the system really shuts up. Fear appeared on Tam Gadin's face. He still doesn't believe that I have stopped loving him, and even more so that someone who once loved him so much now only sees him as a passerby. For too long, he has always maintained a delicate balance, receiving money from me, dedicating his love to Kyo Tin. He hopes to be able to achieve both sides, Bin Lu and heroic. As a result, all his efforts were a complete success. I passed him and wanted to continue returning to the villa. Tam Gadin suddenly knelt in front of me, tears falling from his eyes. He said hoarsely, Noyet, you are definitely lying to me. How can you not love me anymore? You loved me so much before. Why suddenly you don't love me anymore? He knelt down on the ground, tears clouding his vision, making him unable to see my increasingly red eyes. The day I unlocked Vanga, my mother also knelt on the ground like that, using filial piety to force me. Noyet, I raised you to this age. Why don't you think about your family? You are 24 years old. The girls of the same age in the village have gotten married early, but you are always so selfish, only worrying about yourself and not worrying about your family. I kneel down to beg you. I kowtow to you. You get married. Exchange bride price. Go help your brother. She kept banging her head as if just doing that would make me a sinner, a dough that could easily be molded under her moral coercion. This time, Tam Gakin also knelt down in front of me, his appearance gradually matching my mother's old figure. I hate my mother more than my father and younger brother. I hate her weakness. I hate her. After receiving all the suffering, she wanted to drag me into her downfall. I hate her even more for using the fact that she had cancer to trick me into coming home. The poor person who once had to endure exploitation has now become a devil, dragging others down with him into the mud. The blood in my eyes grew darker and darker, the past mixed with reality, and in an instant my reason was swallowed up. I grabbed Tam Gakin's hair, hit it hard on the ground, and scolded madly. You like to kowtow like this, let's do it today. Today, even if you kowtow to death, I will not arbitrarily let you arrange me. I will not exchange my life for a bride price for my younger brother, let alone turn myself into a nutrient for you people to devour. To the end, I couldn't tell clearly who the person in front of me was. It wasn't until the butler pulled the frantic me into the villa that I briefly regained my composure. I turned my head to look at Tam Gakin, bored with him. It was good that he was covered in blood like that. From his desperate eyes, I knew that Tam Gakin completely realized the reality, that not only did I not love him, I also hated him. He wanted to die when the psychiatrist came the third time. His hair was already used up. This time, he didn't ask me to fill out the form anymore. He said it didn't work, so the doctor decided to give up. Simply ask me a question directly. Miss Hua, every time you can't control your emotions, who appears there? I seriously thought for a moment. Tam Gakin. He is present every time. The psychiatrist slapped the table aggressively. The cause of the disease is him, this damn comet. If you see him in the future, take a detour. It's best to keep a distance of 10 meters. I promised. You won't have a situation like that happen again. The divine physician Hua de Taisher instantly prescribed the correct medicine, and I woke up on the spot. Thank you 1,000 times. Send the doctor away. Remember his advice. My future life will absolutely not allow affectionate men to appear again. The land I bought is being developed with great enthusiasm. What puzzled me was that every time the biggest villain of the book met me, he brought 2 bodyguards and always kept a distance of 3 meters from me, not daring to come close. Clearly, the book describes him as a CEO who speaks carefully, is always clear-headed, and has an extremely cruel attitude. Description is slightly different from reality. He estimated that he regretted sharing the 5-year profit with me. It was true. After I bought the land, he didn't have enough money to start construction. He cooperated with me, threw in about 400 million shares, and was on par with me. No wonder he regrets his previous decision. Right now, I feel like I'm the biggest villain. I often immerse myself in the construction site checking progress, and Tam Gakin keeps squatting in front of my villa, but never sees anyone. It took a long time to find my whereabouts. He also started guarding the construction site. I took the psychiatrist's words as gold and hired a bodyguard from afar. Seeing Tam Gakin, he chased people away. In fact, I can still hear the hysterical voice of the passionate male woman. Noyet, I just want to say one thing to you. It's just a minute of your delay. I pouted in disgust. In front of me is a project worth 700 million. Why do I have a minute to talk to this comet? Levi glanced at him contemptuously. Forget it. Isn't it about money? It's been a long time since I left your care, so I'm probably starting to miss the comfortable days at the villa. When he first left the villa, Tam Gakin also thought about building a career. But the bosses who were familiar with him in the past, after knowing that he had turned against me, all chose to ignore the relationships that he was once proud of and completely broke off. He held an unskilled piece of software and broke his leg while running, but no one was willing to give it a glance. He lost all the spirit of his previous life. My lawyer chased him, demanding 998,000 yuan again. The reduction of 20,000 was because I deducted the leavening fee from smashing him. I am always clear about money. I absolutely will not take advantage of others, but others are also despicable enough to take money from me. Tam Gadden hadn't paid yet and was at a dead end. He turned around and sued the heroine so that she could return the things he gave her. Up to this point, the male lead's deep affection for the female lead had completely broken off. An evil woman like me stood between the two of them, yet they were so chaotic that they confronted each other in court. There's nothing left of the old love. After turning around, Kyo Tin completely felt secure in being the male lead's little canary, never mentioning the matter of ascendancy again. I don't care. I only care about my 998,000. After all, they are back. After completing the construction of the shopping center, the system did not speak for a long time. Suddenly a sentence rang in my ear. Host, I have to leave. My remaining conscience, which is not much, is barely there, but flickered a little. Sorry, I can't help you complete the task of achieving KPI. Host, my mission is complete. Cheers rang out in my head. At this time, I understood that the system's mission was to save the affectionate man, so that he could get rid of his dark and stubborn personality. I've done it. The current male protagonist does not have the slightest hint of gloom and stubbornness. Only the devastation of life and poverty remains in his pocket. There was no time to be sad because the delivery time was almost over, and he also had no time to be stubborn because he would receive less than great comments. I congratulate myself. I have succeeded in saving the bad elements of society. When the second investment started to make a profit, I took out a portion to donate to elementary schools, and at the same time help girls in the mountains who could not afford to go back to school. Ben Lewin has been a long time since I lost control. The nightmares before crossing the book also gradually disappeared. The first day the shopping center opened, I successfully got my first commission from it, just in time for me to move to a new house and celebrate my 26th birthday. Live Eye and I also have a villain to meet at our new home. Meanwhile, Live Eye ordered food online. The moment the doors suddenly opened, without having time to take precautions, Tam Gadden appeared in front of him, carrying a heavy bag of food as usual, handing it to the nanny. I was about to say something, but when I looked up, I saw me sitting neatly in the middle of the sofa. For a moment, he was a little panicked. It's clear that we haven't seen each other for 2 years. It's like we've been apart for a lifetime. The system panicked and said, he used to be Noyet. I had a dream. I dreamed that you helped me open a company and brought me to the position of nouveau riche in Hong Kong. But because of my strong self-esteem, when I was young, I always thought that when you gave me money I was humiliating. I returned gratitude with resentment, causing Hua to go bankrupt and also killing me. After saying the last word, his voice was a bit choked and trembling. Perhaps he dreamed about the original script of the book, dreaming of being rich all his life, but waking up it was just a wild dream. For people in the room, different expressions. My strange eyes met his painful eyes. The bottom of his eyes did not have any ripples. Live Eye angrily looked towards Tam Gadden and glanced contemptuously. Tam Gadden, whose edges have been worn away by society, still looks at me with longing eyes. Another disappointment. I can return to my thoughts, wait for me to love him again, and pull him out of the mud. Only the biggest villain of the book, skillfully crawling onto the sofa, holding his head, shouted loudly. What are you standing there for? Quickly close the door. This Miss Hua wants to go crazy every time she sees him. If you don't close it, next week will definitely be your 7th week. The door to the room is closed. A door that separates us between two worlds that do not harmonize with each other. The world that Tam Gadden once hated. In this life, he could never set foot in that place again. Complete. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to press the like button and subscribe to hear more great stories.